In 2017, on a hike, this cute little fluffy thing crossed my path. I'd never seen anything like it. I was mesmerized, completely absorbed by its movements. There weren't any thoughts, I was simply present. I experienced stillness. Something similar had happened years before that during a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. It was day 5 at the end of the lunch break and most people had already gone back to the meditation hall. But I was still on a walk in the forest alone. You could hear a pin drop, it was so quiet. I kept still because 20 meters in front of me was a hedgehog. It must have felt safe because it walked up to me and stopped right next to my feet. I was so excited. I looked down and then gently touched its quills, and as I did, it curled up. So I stayed still, and after a couple of seconds, it just wandered off into the forest, but leaving me behind with this feeling of bliss almost. I was so happy. And this experience happened at a particularly difficult time in my life. The reason why I was at this meditation retreat was that I was really struggling with headaches. And by that time I had had continuous headaches for almost a year. Life was pretty dark, pretty gloomy. And just this experience with this hedgehog, for a brief moment, it took all of that away. And although that retreat didn't cure my headaches, it took another year for those to finally go away, it was a turning point in my life. It taught me the power of stillness, as well as how happiness can be found in the little things all around us. In the year 2000, the late S.N. Cuenca addressed the Millennium World Peace Summit at the United Nations. I must have watched that video 100 times by now, and there's so much wisdom in it. He talks about how our actions are directly related to how we feel on the inside.
If I have mind all the time full of anger, hatred, ill will, animosity, how can I give peace to the world? Because I have no peace myself. I am an agitated person. I am the first victim of my anger.
But if we have a mind that's free from negativity, this feeling of peace comes over us.
And look, the nature or the God Almighty has started rewarding me. I feel so peaceful, so peaceful.
Now, stillness is not the same as idleness or nothingness. It's about slowing down time, appreciating the little things, thinking about what truly matters, and being in a state of calm. Stillness is that time where you had a brilliant idea come up out of nowhere. Or that time when you wrote this thoughtful article almost without effort. It's watching the sunset without wanting to take out your phone to share it online. And it's when you're jamming away and this beautiful melody comes out of your hands and you don't know where it came from. In his book Stillness is the Key, Ryan Holiday writes that the call to stillness comes quietly. The modern world does not. But that's easier said than done, right? We've got so many things vying for our attention on a daily basis. The stress of work, family responsibilities, financial worries, seeing everything that's wrong with the world on the news, social media. But who has the power to stop or time to think? I'm guilty of this myself. I'm driven, there's so many things I'd like to do and achieve, and I can push myself hard trying to accomplish them. But it's stressful trying to spin so many plates up in the air. And the irony is that we use this feeling of overwhelm as an excuse not to practice stillness. Whereas it's much easier to deal with those things coming from a place of stillness instead of stress. And I think intuitively we know that. Truly great people share this key quality, this ability to be still even while the world rages around them. We just have to be proactive and make time for it. But the 17th century philosopher and mathematician Blaise Pascal noted, all the unhappiness of men arises from one simple fact, that they cannot sit quietly in their chamber. I've learned this the hard way. I do not want to go back to those headache days. And this may sound obvious, but I feel most happy when I'm calm and peaceful on the inside. It's why I'm interested in living with intention. Slow living, minimalism, things of that nature. And happy doesn't even seem like the right way to describe it. Content is more accurate. The state of mind where I feel grounded, balanced, no matter what life throws at me. That does more for my well-being than anything external, whether it's traveling, an amazing dish in a restaurant, or Oasis reuniting. Although that last one is a close call. I'm sure I speak for many people when I say, Noel, can you just please get over yourself and get back on the stage with Liam? Now, over the years, there have been a few practices that I keep going back to whenever I notice that I've gone too far in the red. These habits help me to slow down, recenter, and regain this feeling of stillness. And maybe some of them might be helpful to you too. I need my alone time. As an introvert, I recharge my battery when I can just mess about on my own, without other people around. With my team at work, we once spent a full day doing the Myers-Briggs personality type test. And at some point during that day, we were grouped based on our score on the introvert versus extrovert scale. Now, we were a team of 6 and we were equally divided, 3 introverts, 3 extroverts. And I was grouped with the introverts. But the extroverts, they were surprised and they said, "Peter, why are you sitting with them? You're supposed to be with us." And I took that as a compliment. I knew I was sitting at the right table. I've known myself my entire life. I was very shy when I was a teenager. I wasn't very social either. But clearly I had developed good social skills to I guess, fool the extroverts. But one thing I also took away from that day is that introverts, they recharge by spending time alone, whereas extroverts, they recharge by hanging out with other people. Now, that doesn't mean extroverts can be alone, and it doesn't mean that introverts have to be alone all the time. No, I really enjoy good company, but if I spend too much time with people, it drains my energy, especially if it's just small talk. Like when I'm in a group, I still tend to just look for 1 or 2 people and strike up a meaningful, long conversation with them, instead of just going from one person to another and having 20 small talk conversations during that night. But being alone doesn't necessarily result in stillness though. Trust me, I know. I had a phase where I played a lot of online poker, and those bad beats did not make me feel peaceful. What helps me is to cultivate solitude, which is associated with increased creativity, insight, and emotional balance. I like how Raymond Cathledge and Michael Irwin define it in their book Lead Yourself First, a subjective state in which your mind is free from input from other minds. Now, being alone is helpful, but if I watch Netflix all day or I check the news every hour, I'm not going to feel a sense of calm. Quite the opposite. With solitude, the key is that you focus on your own thoughts and experiences instead of reacting to information coming from other people. That can be anything from meditating, journaling, going for a walk outside, playing an instrument, cooking. I also count writing scripts for my YouTube videos. Or it can simply be sitting on the sofa with a cup of coffee, watching the clouds roll by and pondering life. That reminds me of a metaphor that Buddhists use to explain the way our minds work. While clouds may pass by, there's always a blue sky behind them. With patience and stillness, the blue inevitably appears again. I balance that kind of alone time with things that do stimulate my mind, but that I find calming or inspiring, like reading a book. I also like listening to podcasts. Spending time alone and cultivating solitude not only recharge my battery, but also refill my cup of solitude, so to speak. I love technology. There's so much good that comes from technology. Without it, I wouldn't have a remote job or be able to make these videos and share them with you. But it also can take things away. Stillness, being present, being focused in the moment. In his book Digital Minimalism, Carl Newport writes that we didn't sign up for this digital world we live in. We sort of stumbled backward into it. In this era of hyperconnectedness, we need to adapt and we need to be more mindful of what we do online and when we should go off. One habit I have is to not check my phone for about an hour after I wake up. Instead, I get dressed, go for a walk, and read a book as part of my morning routine. I also limit my screen time at night. I often put my phone away. Or I listen to a podcast to unwind before going to sleep. Having endless information available at our fingertips isn't something we should take lightly. We need time away from our devices to see the bigger picture. The off switch is as important as the on switch. Tiffany Shlain, founder of the Webby Awards and author of the book 24/6, even suggests taking a technology Shabbat, 1 day a week without technology. She argues that it's like a mini vacation, a slow living practice that her family savors like fine wine. On that day, a valve of pressure is being released from the bombardment of interesting facts, articles, and tidbits of information we consume on a daily basis. That 1 day off to rest and think about the world reinvigorates her to engage with the world again with a new perspective. So that's something maybe you can think about. Are there times during your day or your week where you don't absolutely need to be online? And if so, it might be helpful to set limits on your screen time and test if that has a positive effect on your state of mind. One thing that drains my energy is when I spend too much time doing things I feel I have to do but don't find meaningful. Now, I understand certain things need to get done even if I don't like them. A difficult project at work, a chore at home. But when I have to stretch myself too thin, it can start to feel like my life revolves around waking up and sitting behind a conveyor belt that's going at a pace I can hardly keep up with. When what I do don't seem to matter much, I lose that sense of stillness. And what makes a real difference is having enough time to spend on things that I find meaningful. That ranges from living at a sustainable pace to having deep conversations with people I care about and learning new things. In his book Life on Purpose, Victor J. Strecker shares a ton of research showing how having a strong purpose is associated with all kinds of health benefits, like longevity, better sleep, a reduced chance of depression, and feeling more relaxed. He suggests thinking of purpose as a higher order goal that has deep value. Now, you don't have to find your purpose, you can choose it. I recently saw a good example when I watched the Netflix show Last Chance U Basketball. John Mosley, a basketball coach at East Los Angeles College, has dedicated his life to inspire his players to be their greatest selves and fulfill their major college potential. For me, this YouTube channel gives me a sense of purpose. It started with my interest in slow living and minimalism. I wanted to educate myself more about these lifestyles. But Richard Bach said that we teach best what we most need to learn. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm by no means the all-knowing guru. I'm as much on a path of discovery as you are. I'm just sharing what I learn along the way. But as the channel grows, so does the community around it. I love reading all your comments. I feel the comment section is turning into this little corner of the internet where like-minded people can share their thoughts on living a more intentional life, as an antidote to all the noise and negativity out there. Now, some videos get a lot of views, others very few, but I enjoyed making all of them. I heard Ali Abdaal once suggest a helpful technique to disconnect from YouTube analytics, and that is to ask yourself, does this video help one person? Is it of value to one person? And if it is, it was worth making it. And that's what I tell myself when I have a video that doesn't get as many views as some of my other videos. Like, if it was helpful to one person watching, it was worth making. I obviously want this channel to grow, but my motivation is mostly intrinsic. Making these videos is the perfect excuse to read more, learn more, grow as a person, connect with like-minded people who have similar interests. That feels meaningful to me. And when I make these videos, I get in this state of flow and I experience stillness. It's like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There's this quote by Friedrich Nietzsche that resonated with me. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. And I think that goes to the heart of the topic of this video. If you're feeling drained or burnt out even, it may be helpful to ask yourself if you're spending enough time on the things you value. Now, if you can find that in your job, that's great. But for many of us, that's not the case. Our job helps pay the bills, maybe we develop new skills, even grow as a person, but it may not necessarily feel meaningful. And that's okay, as long as there's something in your life that gives you a sense of purpose. And that can be anything from spirituality to raising a family, volunteering, maybe training in kids' sports teams. There are so many options. So these practices help me to stay on track and experience a sense of stillness in my life. But they're not the only things I do. I also have 3 habits that calm me that I keep going back to. I made a separate video about that, which you can watch right here. These actions are helpful when I feel stressed or out of balance. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!